Good evening and welcome to Open Your Mind Internet Radio. You have myself, Alan James.
And you have myself, Stephen George. Very good evening.
Good evening. It's Sunday the 19th of May 2012. So we were planning to have Tony Zed on the show along with Tammi Pepperman, but unfortunately Tony's computer blew up. But we still have Tammi, and we're going to be talking to Tammi about the OPPT stuff, which is the People's Trust. But before we go down that route, we'll get the communications off Steve.
Absolutely. Communications, email info@oymireland.com if you want to send us an email during the week or during the show or whenever you fancy it. We also have the chat facility, the chat box on the website as well. So if you're listening to us on one of the streams and you want to join in the chat, or you want to... Wow, that's nice. You're playing with the switches. Alan's playing with the knobs and the audio just got louder than... Oh, stop!
There you go.
That's uncomfortable now.
There you go.
Sorry, we have the chat... I have to turn the headphones down, sorry. It's very loud. We have the chat box on the site as well. So depending on what stream you're listening to, you can go along to OYMradio.com, and on the left-hand side of the screen you will see the live chat button. You can click there and you can log in. You can chat amongst yourselves. You can ask some questions to our special guest this evening if you like. And last method of communication, if you're near a phone and you want to ring in, you can.
Give us a call on 046 927 1212.
That's right, 046 927 1212. If you're ringing in from outside the Republic of Ireland, it's 00353 in front of that. Alan.
Cheers, Steve. Okay, just a couple of things that we're going to go through as usual, but the first thing to say is obviously a lot of people have heard about TNS being shut down. Vin decided to close down the site, the TNS radio site, and he wants to spend a bit of time with family, obviously, for his own reasons. So, people need to respect his decision to do that. And obviously it wasn't an easy decision to make, but that's what he chose to do. I did speak to Vin during the week, and that's something that he's just decided to do. So, best of luck to Vin, and obviously, if he feels like after he has a break that he wants to get back on the radio, it'd be good to hear him back on. But the good news is that also, well, that's the bad news, really, that TNS is closed down. But the good news is that we are now broadcasting on Scottish Sovereign on the Land. We have a stream with Scottish Sovereign on the Land that we set up today. So hello to everybody who has never heard of OYM before, or if you might have heard of us but never heard our podcast or our show. Good evening to everybody. We're just watching the chat facility there. So if you have any questions that you want to ask our guest or ask us, by all means, type them on the chat facility. We can see you there on the chat facility. Hello to everyone. And we also have our own chat facility there on OYM. Good evening to people there on the chat facility. As I say, the guest that we're going to have on tonight will be Tammi Pepperman, and we're going to be talking about the People's Trust and probably a few other things as well. So we look forward to doing that. But for the time being, we go over to Steve. He's going to tell us about the OYM seminar.
Yes, I suppose I should do that. Before I do that, I want to just also echo Alan's sentiments as well. TNS is a loss. We've been involved with TNS for a while. A couple of years actually, and it is a loss. But maybe out of the ashes, something new may grow. We just have to wait and see. But the very best wishes to Vin and his family at this time. And moving on, the potholes got fixed as well. I was driving up this evening and I didn't have to swerve all over the road, so the potholes were filled in. So that's a bonus. Well done to the county council on that one.
But they will be coming up in a few days.
The
old tractors be out and they be...
Well, they put them down, but they have to take them up again because whatever they fill them in with, they generally... my personal opinion is that they fill in the potholes here in County Meath where we are, and then there's potholes in County Louth for argument's sake, and the people in Louth start complaining, so they leave ours filled in for a couple of weeks, and then eventually they'll come one night and about midnight, 1 a.m. They'll take all the filling out of potholes. They fill the potholes in County Louth, and then we'll start whinging again. So,
do you think they're creating employment for themselves?
Yes, they are. They are
keeping themselves in a job. Yeah, I think so.
Make work day. I don't know. Anyway, as regarding the seminar, we are holding a free seminar. That's free. It's going to be in the Headford Arms Hotel. That's in Kells in County Meath. It's on Monday, the 17th of June, from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Seating is limited, so you're going to have to arrive early, and we are not joking. The room only holds about 3 people, and that's going to be me and Alan. So there's one seat up for.
Can I just say something about that? You know the way you get some people doing the marketing thing saying, there's not a lot of seats there, so get early. We're not joking. There isn't a lot of seats there, so do get early.
Yeah.
Do get there early.
In all sincerity, we had a choice of 2 rooms, and we said, you know what, let's just kind of test the water here first. So we went for the smaller of the 2. We could have went for the larger room, but, you know, we could have been, you know, ended up with egg in our face, so we chose a smaller room. But yeah, so get there early. That's 17th of June, Headford Arms Hotel, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. There is plenty of parking in the town itself, in and around where the hotel is. I think you have to pay for parking up to 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. But this is going to be 8 p.m. so it'll be free parking. So no need to worry about pay and display. And there's also car parking in the hotel as well. We're not going to be charging for this event. As we say, it's free. It is absolutely completely free. We will, however, have a bucket if anyone, you know, turns up on the night and you feel like donating €1. It'll be used to cover the expenses of the room, because it is getting paid for out of our own pocket. And the guest speaker for the evening is going to be Mr. Walter Graham, a good friend here at OYM. He's going to be talking about the dangers of wireless technology and such related technology. And just as a little incentive, sorry, there is going to be buses from Dublin. Anyone who's coming from Dublin, there will be buses from Bus Éireann. They'll bring you straight to Kells. It'll be a nice scenic route, you know. What was I going to say? Yeah, as a little incentive, we're going to be giving out some free bumper stickers as well. So, you know, it'll be definitely worth it for that. Even if you don't stay for the talk, come for the sticker.
And if you think that the Blue Peter badge was hard to get, you want to try and get your hands on an OYM sticker.
Well, actually, no. If you want to get an OYM sticker, you can get 5 for a £5.
Now you've gone and spoiled it. You mean it's on the shop?
It is, yeah. It's on the website.
Right, okay. And just another announcement there. We mentioned it last week that Dr. Carol Rosen is having a seminar, a contact in the desert at Joshua Tree Retreat Centre on the 9th, 11th of August 2013, a weekend of exploration into ancient aliens, human origins, UFO sightings and the need to know. Watch the meteor shower through the clear desert sky featuring George Norrie, he's from Coast to Coast AM, isn't he? Stephen Greer, live stream, Graham Hancock, Jim Mars and more. For more information, visit contactinthedesert.net. Pop over there. It's a seminar that's going on. Steve, how's your week?
Yeah, my week's been good. We've been checking out some of the usual kind of checking out some of the links and stuff that's going around, monitoring Facebook, you know, and so on and so forth. Just want to mention about Attack the Tax. They're still travelling around the country educating people in relation to this property tax, because ministers, I can't think of the lady's name. I know her surname is Feehilly, or I think it's pronounced Feely, but it's spelled kind of Feehilly. Can't think of the lady's first name, but she's been on the media, on the news, also on the printed media as well, and she's kind of threatening people, saying we will take this property tax, we are your cold dead hands, type of thing. So Attack the Tax, they do have a list of meetings on their website, but some, you know, it's getting added to on a daily basis. They have added several new meetings, and it's well worth checking out and getting along to one of the meetings if you can. Same scenario. It's free. They'll accept donations at the door just to cover the price of hiring out the room, and it's definitely well worthwhile. And kind of following on from that, there is information on the internet. Now, I will put up a link to it. I do have a link, and I will put it up fairly shortly. But it is basically everything in a nutshell that Attack the Tax are saying, you know, at their talks. It's a long old document, but it's definitely well worth the read. And you may need to read it twice. For anyone who's kind of new to this information, you may need to read it twice, because there's a lot of plays on words, and that's kind of where the likes of our government, where they kind of get people. You know, for argument's sake, when you're told you're required to fill out this form, and people go, oh, I'm required, so I'll just go and fill it out. but you're not. No one can hold a gun to your head and make you fill out a form. And the same with this property tax. It's all based on you making a declaration. No one can force you to make a declaration against your will. Anyway, I'll put up the link. Definitely, it's good information. So if you cannot get to one of the Attack the Tax meetings, definitely have a read of this document. As I say, it's worth its weight in gold. And also, I'll stick up a link as well to anyone who's been using the return to sender labels. I know I've been using it. Alan's been using it. I'm sure thousands of people across the country have been using it. But did you ever wonder, when you break down what's on the front, I do not understand you, I do not, when you break it down, do you know what it means? But we came across, Alan pointed me in the direction last evening of a website, and they had the information on it, and it's broken down, and it tells you exactly, it kind of dissects it line for line, and it's an eye-opening little read, so that's a good one as well. The last thing on my little list is the whole vaccination thing again. Anyone who's a regular listener knows that my little baby is now 5 months old, and we keep getting these calls from the public health nurse about this MMR vaccination and so on and so forth. And my wife received a phone call the other day from the public health nurse, and she said, right, so you still haven't got your baby vaccinated. Well, listen, I have a form. If you're not going to get her vaccinated, I have a form that must be completed. So I'll probably drop over to you and we'll fill this form out. So I was kind of mulling that over in my head, and I said to my wife, if she does call, you fill out nothing and you sign absolutely nothing. And then I got to thinking, maybe we could draw up our own form and give it to the public health nurse and say, well, okay, if we do decide and we go ahead and we get this vaccination as you recommend, and something happens to the child, so I'm gonna construct a little form. If I can't find one on the web pre-done, I'm gonna draw up my own, and I'll hand it to the public health nurse, and it'll be kind of a touche. There you go. Well, we'll need this form filled out if we are going to go ahead, and that's to say that because, as Alan and I were discussing yesterday, the pharmaceutical companies, they have kind of things in place where if anything happens to you because of some vaccination that you got, well, they're in the clear. They cannot be prosecuted. So you have to, somebody has to pay. If something happens to my child, well, I want to hold somebody responsible. And if the pharmaceutical companies are not going to, step up to the mark, well, then I'll hold the public health nurse or the doctor personally responsible. So we're going to draw up a little form and see how that goes. And other than that, it's, that's pretty much my week, just the usual,
You got a question there. Do you have the website address where the description of the RTS is?
I'm going to post it up now. Just give me a moment, because I cannot multitask. I'm a man, remember, so I cannot type and talk. I can't even copy and paste and talk.
Do you want me to talk while you're typing?
Well, I'm just going to copy and paste.
Yeah, okay. No worries.
Anyway, that's me. Done and dusted. How was your week?
Okay, well, not too bad. A few things going on. If you remember last week, we talked about ODD, the fact that Lauryn Hill from the band The Fugees has been diagnosed, apparently,
that's right,
of ODD, which is oppositional defiant disorder. So that's what we all suffer from. Anybody that's in the truth movement, like me and Steve, and everybody else listening to the show, if you're against the government and you're in the truth movement, you're suffering from oppositional defiant disorder. Well, of course, I kind of went on the search and I thought, hang on a minute, if they're going to pencil us with some kind of label, there must be a label for the people who are the sheeple and who aren't awake. And I found the actual label, I found the name. Okay, so when people call you ODD, you can call them a neophobia. Neophobia is the name. Okay, so the I'm okay Jack attitude, the neophobia, is the fear of new things or experiences. Okay, the fear of new things and experiences. In psychology, neophobia is defined as the persistent and abnormal fear of anything new. In its milder form, it can manifest as the unwillingness to try new things or break from routine. Mild manifestations are often present in young children who want the small portion of the world that they know to remain constant, and elderly people who often cope using long-established habits and don't want to learn new tricks. Neophobia is also a common finding in aging animals, although apathy could also explain or contribute to explain the lack of exploratory drive systematically observed in aging. Researchers argued that the lack of exploratory drive was likely due neuropsychologically to the dysfunction of neural pathways connected to the prefrontal cortex observed during aging.
So anyway, in layman's terms, what are you saying?
In layman's terms, basically, people who don't like change, sure, leave it, that's the way it's always been done, and they don't want new experiences, and they're stuck in their belief system. And, you know, that's where they're comfortable, I suppose. Well, they're called neophobic. They're neophobic. So if they're going to call us ODD, which is oppositional defiant disorder, they are neophobia. They're suffering from neophobia. And you can go and Google that and check it out on the internet. And of course, the one other thing that's on the list before we get our guest on, Ireland got 1 point in the Eurovision. How fantastic is that?
Seriously.
I'll tell you, if we put Father Ted in with My Lovely Horse, we could have done 10 times better.
No, I'm sorry. Now, I didn't watch it, right? Now, I know I didn't watch it because I was on Skype to Alan at the time, so I know I didn't watch it. That's how I know he wasn't watching it either. But, I mean, 1 point, I actually heard the Irish song during the week. The chap I work with, he said he was going to be watching it, and he asked me, he said, have you seen the Irish song? It's not bad. And I went, no, I haven't. So he stuck it on the computer on YouTube, and I have to admit, I mean, seriously, it wasn't that bad. It was one of those songs that you could actually imagine getting played during the summer at some rave or some disco, you know, Ibiza or something like that. I mean, it wasn't that bad. Seriously.
Well, I
1 point.
To be honest with you, I didn't hear it. I didn't watch it. I just heard on the news that Ireland got 1 point. Yeah. But then again, we don't want to win because all we need is a Eurovision, and that will completely bankrupt the country, you know?
Yeah, do you remember that? I mean, people used to say, oh, isn't it great that we won? And, you know, people are going, yeah, it is. And then other people are going, no, it's not. Because if we win, that means we have to host it, and that's going to cost a couple of million to set up.
Just a couple of comments. Steve's going to post up that link regarding the description of the RTS.
Don't dust it?
He's
hang on, sorry.
Did you put it on the other one?
No, I didn't.
Okay, stick it on the other one there, Steve, please. And somebody else here, Kelt2013, said, doesn't ODD just stand for odd? Yeah, basically. We are odd. I suppose that's one way to look at it. We're odd people. Okay, we're going to bring in our guest tonight. And this lady is Tammi Pepperman. Tammi has been, I'd pretty much say, I think Tammi will probably change, she might agree with me on this one, but I think she's against the OPPT and what people have been talking about the OPPT. So, but we'll find out more. So, good evening, Tammi. How are you doing?
Great. How are you?
Not too bad. I was getting worried there. It's very quiet. Good evening, Tammi. Before we get into the OPP stuff, I have to say it's a pity Tony Zed couldn't get on. He had a problem with his computer and it crashed out. So, because Tony was going to be on with you as well, we were going to be talking about this. But that's technology and that's IT for you. What can you say? But Tammi, tell us a bit about yourself. Before we go into the OPPT, tell us about yourself and your background and what you're doing and what you've been involved in.
Well, what we've done is we've had Congress under indictment in U.S. District Court, Northern Indiana, because we came in under the Sovereign Immunities Act, 28 U.S.C. 7, the Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act. And earlier, before I forget, I want to go into something that earlier you were speaking about people being diagnosed and everything else. That is Congress. And when Congress came in with the Nuremberg trials, they took over Ireland, the whole government of Ireland. Even though you have, what looks like a government, that is Congress from, quote, the United States of America. They created themselves. They've taken over everything. They are the New World Order as of the Atlantic Charter in 1941. Well, then you come through, and they took over Ireland in 45 through the Nuremberg trials and all of that fiasco. Now, the reason everybody's being diagnosed is that they're generating revenue by diagnosis through the International Classification of Diseases and Disorders, through the WHO, World Health Organization. And so when everybody's diagnosed, they're raking in the money. You guys run into for prescriptions. You guys run into the doctor's office, everything else, and the television allows you to diagnose yourself now with depression, anxiety, everything else. But most people are just they're suffering from what is known as depression, but not as you know it. You are being pressed down upon.
Yeah.
Depress. That word means to press down upon. And so you've got this tyrannical government function, and they're pressing down upon you, and you're reacting to that. Instead of living in the depression, get out of it. Indict Congress. Indict Congress.
Well,
and that's what we've done.
Okay, well, tell us a bit about you, Tammi, your background, and what you've been involved in.
Well, everything. What we do is we teach international law, we teach ecclesiastical law, and we hold them accountable for what they've done. We're having a lot of success. Last night we had a federal judge on the show, and he basically admitted that they're selling court judgments to each other, and that's how they're generating more revenue, because they have you in the chute. They generate revenue through the psychology industry, medical industry, and the criminal industry of law. And this is all they do. Everything that you know is put upon you by congressional act. And everybody needs to rise up now across the globe. This Northern District of Indiana case, USDC case, we took it in as the United States. And that includes everybody across the globe. The United States is the United States of being. And that's what Jesus was trying to teach us, years and years ago. He was teaching us, I am. You're just I am. Well, I am is the United States of being. And you need to walk accordingly. You are Jesus. Jesus in Latin means your earth.
Okay, and let's look into the OPPT. Now, this all started with Heather. Now, I forget Heather's last name, Tucci something. It's a good old Irish name, I think. But Heather came out, and she was talking about the OPPT, and this was a universal trust law, and that governments and corporate companies and banks and everything have been declared foreclosed because of what she did, and she put her house up as collateral to test this system. And this is, as far as I know, about what the OPPT. Now, you had to download a letter, which you filled out or you changed, and you sent it in to whoever you wanted to send it into, like banks or your government or whatever, and to foreclose on them. Now, I've been seeing there is a Facebook group called OPPT Opt-in, or OPPT In, and they're asking everybody to opt in, and I couldn't really understand, why do you have to opt in? Why do you have to jump in? All these people saying, I've joined into this OPPT. I have not yet, no, I'm not saying there isn't, but I have not yet seen any results as of yet regarding OPPT. Nobody is saying, oh, I did this and this is the result, and now I have my mortgage, I don't have a mortgage anymore, or, the government's being foreclosed on. I haven't really heard anything. So can you kind of give us a heads up? Can you go into more detail about the OPPT?
Absolutely. She's an attorney. Attorneys have an oath to the bar. They don't have an oath to you. They're not a citizen. Even though she gives her bar card back to whoever, she can throw it in the garbage or whatever, but in order to come back away from the bar, she has to take an oath somewhere else. That's what expatriation is. If you patriate or call something else your father, you need to expatriate from that and patriate into something else, and she's never done that. When she claims to be one of the people, you are not one of the people. The 14th Amendment describes a person as a corporation. She is putting that trust in the same thing that Congress did. And so that it doesn't go anywhere. She can't foreclose on the United States Incorporated because it's all held already in a holding corporation. That's what bankruptcy forced them into. That's what they forced you into. Now, each and every time you go in for a birth certificate, you become a franchise of the United States Incorporated. You are the thing they're holding in the holding corporations under receivership. When you go into court and you see the CR number next to your case number, that means corporate receivables. You are being used to generate revenue into these holding corporations, into this as a stock option.
Well, we're familiar with the whole strawman thing and the body corporate. And when you register a baby, you're actually registering as a body corporate. And that generates revenue, except you don't get the revenue. And so we're familiar with the kind of whole straw man thing and the two people, the human being, flesh and blood, and the straw man for their system. So this is what you're referring to, yeah?
Right, except for it goes deeper than most people even realize. That stock option backs all of the other stock. The United States Incorporated is like Walmart, Sam's, Aurora Medicine, everything under corporate receivership. These are held in corporate holding corporations. And what you're doing is you back that stock. You hedge the bet on that stock. And it's not only the birth certificate. The birth certificate is only the stock option. When you go before that, the birth record is a manufacturer's statement of origin. It has your height, weight, and your circumference of the head, which is capit. That is what capitalism is. Capitalism is generating revenue off of you. Capit. Capit means head.
Right, okay. And so they're generating... So when they say, and this is just kind of my understanding, you know, a couple of years ago we had the Irish government selling $2 billion worth of bonds. And we've been told that bonds are short for bondage, which means that it's their future earnings.
Well, and it's you. When they enter into agreement with each other, Congress takes out a whole bunch of debt, a whole bunch of loans, and what they do is they make treaties in between whoever they have loans with. That treaty sells you, the human being, to offset their debt. Each and every treaty, they're selling you, the human being, to offset their debt. And so, for example, if you're accepting mail in the dead name, you get mail every day, right, from the post office?
That's right, yeah.
Okay, the 1794 Treaty of Amity, Commerce, and Navigation that they entered into says that every time you accept mail or assume the fiction, which is the last name, you're being held as a felon. Under 18 U.S.C. 1342, that's a felon for you to assume that name because that's their name. The last name is theirs. They have a patent on that last name. And what most people don't realize is that the first and second name is fine. That's the name that your parents gave you. The last name is what they gave you long ago under letters patent, and it only describes you as a new species of human being. That's what a family is. Family means genus. So they're describing you as a new species in order to maintain that patent. My maiden name is Eric's son. They describe whoever as Eric's son. And then there's Smith, which means blacksmith or silversmith. It's a description of what you can do as to production value.
Okay.
They hold the patent on that for that reason.
So we're going into the case where that we have the straw man, the uppercase letters, which is the body corporate, which is the corporation. And because at the moment what we have over here is a lot of people are using the return to sender. And they're talking about that the government want to contract with you all the time. They want joinder. So people are being told to get the return to sender stickers and basically tell them, no thanks, but I'm not contracting with you, send it back in the post.
Right. And if you return a bill within 10 days, then it doesn't become a law. But if you don't return that within 10 days, it becomes a law, and you're stuck with that. You have that bond established. That is posting your own bond by post.
But they so obviously our courts over here, obviously sometimes ignore that, and they still go ahead, and they would, like, say for example, just for argument's sake, somebody decides to do return to sender on their TV license, because we have TV licenses over here in Ireland, which is ridiculous. So they do the return to sender, but yet, so the people are reported. I don't know how that would really work. Let's do the return to sender on a parking ticket, right? That might be better, right? Okay. Let's say you get a parking ticket and you do the return to sender, and of course they don't get paid. So there's a bench warrant set up for you in court because you don't turn up to actually, you didn't pay the parking ticket. So then the police or the Gardaí, which is what they're called over here, come out to pick you up because obviously you get sent a summons and you obviously return the sender on that as well. I mean, if the system says that it's all contractual and you send this back within 10 days, surely that should be it. Why are
You also need to indicate your intent. And what we do here is we provide them with an equitable estoppel. We send this into court and we say, hey, look, somebody's bringing me into court on false language or conduct, and this court doesn't have any jurisdiction. What this does is it asks them to prove up their title. Show me that you have a title to me and then you can sue me. But if you don't have a title to me and you can't provide that to me, you don't have a suit. You don't have anything. You don't have any jurisdiction. And that stops them. You need to stand on your own authority, because for some reason everybody believes that Congress or these lawmakers have a allodial title to the estates. They have nothing. Originally, the charters of Ursu and all of these other charters, they just came in and agreed with each other that they're going to raise the land, take the land, raise it, put you into perpetual servitude. Okay, there's no allodial title. Absolutely no allodial title. And so you need to do the equitable estoppel. Ask them, show me your title.
Okay, so
show me that you have any ability to bring me into court.
Okay, so the title is basically ownership. If they don't own you, then they've no right to demand something off you.
Absolutely.
Right.
And they might maintain the patent. Make sure that you're not using that last name. That's the thing that they own. Don't use the last name. Use the proper name. The proper name is the first and middle name.
Okay.
That's it.
Right. Okay. So, but obviously on the system, for the likes of electricity and bank accounts and all that, everybody has been using their last name for these bank accounts. So how does that work? Would you go in? You said you have to go down to the court and issue an estoppel, but do you go in and you tell them?
Never go in. And what you're going to do is you're going to provide them with the equitable estoppel, and what you want to do is you want to put on admission statements, which means evidence. You're putting on or admitting evidence on a court record, the evidence of your be living or be alive, and the evidence of the crime that they've just committed. Somebody sent me a letter that says, I'm facing jail time for this. This is criminal coercion. So you want to do a motion to show cause criminal coercion. Nobody can hold you in contempt for a crime you haven't committed. Tell me what the crime is when I didn't get a television license. You're telling me, you're forcing me into contract. I don't contract with these people. I don't have another father.
Yeah, but okay, I'm going to be devil's advocate here. Right, parking ticket, that's apparently in the law as a statute. That's a criminal.
Statutes are statements of compulsion. So you'd want to do an equitable estoppel by election. When they give you an election or a choice of two options, which is not a choice, either you show up to court or you'll be arrested, that is not a choice. That's criminal coercion, number one. Number two, that's under the doctrine of election. Now, under the doctrine of election, you can get a right or a benefit, but you're never going to get both. So you go in with an equitable estoppel by election, and say, hey, look, you have given me the option of two inconsistent alternatives. However, here's the third. Fuck you. I'm sorry, but that's what you do. Here's the third, and I'm not your property. So here's the option that I'm taking outside of criminal coercion.
Okay, so Tammi, take us through from the start, because for people who are not familiar with this, so what happens is they end up getting a parking ticket, okay? So they're looking at this paperwork and it says you have to pay this fine in 28 days or it's going to go up to X amount of money. So
right.
Take us through it from there.
Well, it starts out with criminal coercion, first of all. Second of all, this is fraud upon the court. Third of all, this is criminal contempt of court, because the ability of the court to function has been impeded now. Now, when they're doing these things, all it is thuggery. It's piracy. Now, when you go back to all of these treaties on how Congress got global governance, you will find that every action they've ever done is unlawful on its face. And so as you're going through this, and you think that there's all these laws and statutes, statute means statement of compulsion. That already keeps you in criminal coercion. Okay? It's charging you with something just in case. And just in case is a mechanism to condition you to be more politically correct. These are conditioning mechanisms. It's like Pavlovian theory. So you have this dog, and you ring a bell and it salivates, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing. You have you, and if you smack you get a letter in the mail. That's like a smack on your face. You need to show up to court or you're going to be arrested or whatever else. This is Pavlovian theory. So when you believe that they actually have authority, you're being engineered to be more politically correct, which means you're good for politics. It doesn't mean you're good for humanity. It means you're really beneficial to politics. Once you step out of that mindset and start holding them accountable, they absolutely have no authority at all.
But what if they ignore what you've done and just send the police out to arrest you anyway?
Well, they can't. The rules, Admiralty law stipulates that if somebody comes against you and they put a public lien or a lien on a public vessel, that they're assuming the charge. They take a risk. All of this, the court system is the game of chess and the game of risk. And when somebody comes up against you, they always take that risk because controversy, treasure trove means something found and you just pick it up and now it's yours and you're the winner. Okay, so that's what's happening. According to the law of infants and the Cesar K. Vi, you're lost at sea. This is the sea of commerce. Okay, so you don't know who you are. You've been claiming to be a citizen. You've been claiming to be an individual. You say you're a male. You say you're a female, mom, dad, whatever. You've got all these titles, but you don't know who you are. You don't know your authority, so they're subjugating you. Okay? Once you realize your authority, you're like, oh my gosh, this is so simple. You know, they have absolutely no authority. They don't have a legal right to anything. They have nothing. And so when you come up against them and ask them to prove up their title that they own you, what do they respond with? Well, nothing. They have no response. Okay? All of this is operating on the doctrines of parens patriae, or the ability of the state to parent. Number one, for the state to parent, parens patriae says that they have to evidence harm upon a human being right now, not in the future. So when you get a speeding ticket, it says you're speeding and you're about to hurt yourself. That's just in case. That does not fall under the doctrine of parens patriae. You haven't harmed yourself and you haven't harmed others. So the state does not have the ability to protect you unless you consent. You have to consent to that authority, right? You have to assume that they have authority in order for them to do what they're doing.
Well, we've had situations where people have said that to the police. I'm saying the police because the Gardaí, but the police, so you know who we're referring to. And they've said, you know, no consent, we do not consent. And the police obviously don't understand all this, and they just think, right, okay, let's take him in, put him in cuffs.
Right. And you need to teach them. In my process, what you're doing is you're notifying them that they're actually perpetrating crimes. Now, cops are privateers. They're business licensed privateers. And what their function is they go out and they capture vessels, bring them in front of an admiralty court for condemnation and sale. That's what's happening. You're in front of the trustee judge there. He's protecting you to death. He's your trustee. The minute you appear in front of him, you're asking him to help you with something, right?
Yeah.
He's protecting you to death. And so you need to notify the local law enforcement, hey, you're a privateer. If you want to still contract with me, because you're a business licensed privateer, if you want to still contract with me, here's my fee schedule. And our fee schedule, you don't give it to them when you're at a stop. You mail it to them beforehand. You let them all know that they're privateers. You're fully aware that they're privateers. And if they want to continue to contract with you, here's your fee schedule. And on our fee schedule, it costs them $33 billion to contract with me. I haven't been stopped.
But isn't
they
that,
don't want to contract with me.
But isn't that a bit mad, 32 billion? I mean, 5...
No, that's what they're generating in revenue. Each estate, the reason they're picking you up, the reason they're doing this, the reason they're after you with psychology, medical industry, criminal industry, is because your estate is worth $33 billion on the open market.
Wow.
So when you find them or you offer them a contract that they can pay $33 billion to pick you up, it's not very beneficial to them, is it?
No. And
is it cost effective?
Well, not to them.
I mean, this is all corporate structure. This is all regarding corporations. You're the product of a corporation. The bottom line is money. And so you want to find them or give them the opportunity to contract with you up to the same amount that they generate off of your back if they actually picked you up on the street or went after you and tried to kill you through the medical industry or psychological industry or tried to criminalize you through false allegations or whatever they're going to do. Or like Steve was talking about earlier about the baby. They want him to get immunizations. Well, that's the medical industry. So these immunizations are going to make the baby really sick. Well, then you go back to the doctor, and the doctor will make it better. But this is a constant, perpetual process to generate revenue off of your back. Don't let them touch your baby. Don't register your baby. Don't give it to the state. Do not allow them to immunize it because it'll make your baby sick, especially if it's a male child. The mercury in these immunizations that they say is a preservative actually sterilizes the male. Throughout a period of time, mercury sterilizes the male. This is population control.
Well, I'm going to pass it over to Steve, because I think Steve will probably want to ask you a few questions about that. This is great information, by the way, Tammi. I think it's very good. But I'm going to pass it over to Steve. Steve, you might want to ask a few questions about that.
Yes. No, we have a question that came in earlier on the Scottish chat, and it was from one of their listeners, and he said, "My son had a baby yesterday." Well, congratulations. I didn't know men could have babies, but obviously that's my attempt at humour, so we'll rush on quickly. His son had a baby yesterday. He's now seeking advice from his father as to whether he should register the baby, the birth. And he actually put this question about 5 minutes ago. I didn't really know you were going to go down that road so soon, Tammi. If he was Tammy's son, how would she advise him? But I think you've just done that. I mean,
right, and you don't want to register him. Do not have your child circumcised. They pitch circumcision as a convenience. This is torture, and the whole action of the ability of the state to function and parent you is because somehow you have been subjugated. At birth, when a child is born, especially a male child, when they perpetrate male genital mutilation on a child, this traumatizes a child as it's looking up to an authority figure. This is the first separation of the spiritual and temporal with that child. That pain is excruciating. That pain is absolutely excruciating. And if you do not believe me, I have tons of videos on male circumcision. It takes a long time. Most parents don't hear the screams from that baby, but that hurts. That is male genital mutilation. Do not do it to your child. This is a means of controlling you throughout your life. When a baby is subjugated to something like that, the first instant they're on this planet, when they're outside the womb, this is trauma. This is how you're subjugated. Throughout time, you'll go through daycare, public school system, which is Hitler Youth. Get your kids out of public school. These are Hitler Youth camps. This is indoctrinating your children to align with the national program, to align with the state. Don't do this to your children. This is trauma. This is how you begin or you learn to feel like you require a government.
Well,
because you've been traumatized.
Lucky enough, we don't do that over here in Ireland and in Europe. I don't really think it goes on much. Not in
public school.
No, circumcision.
Oh, it does actually.
Does it?
Yeah.
I'm just cross my legs when she said that.
Yeah, you and me both. No, it actually does go on here because one of my neighbours about 6 weeks ago, the child was having problems. The child's only 7 years of age, but he was having problems going using the bathroom. So he went. Let's be honest about it. When I was growing up, there was my next door neighbour. He had a similar problem. He had problems going to the bathroom, and it was about foreskin being too tight. His mother was going to get down the road of circumcision, but it was that's the way the medical industry was saying, "No, this is what needs to be done." The mother mulled it over, and she decided no, she wasn't going to do it. Now, as far as I know, well, he would be the same age as me now. He's grown up, he's married, he's gone on to have a family. So I think everything is still working in that respect. But one of my neighbours there about 6 weeks ago, one of her little sons, he was having problems, and it was only after the fact that I heard it when my wife came to me and she says, "Oh, Mrs. X down the road, she's brought her son in for a circumcision." I asked her why, and then she told me, and I said, "Jesus Christ, that can't be right." Because I know as well, Tammi, from what you're saying, and from what I've heard, it is a traumatic experience, and I don't want to see the video, so don't send them over. I don't want to see them, but I did see information whereby a certain amount of children had died undergoing circumcision, and because of I don't know again what religion this was, but it was done on religious grounds, and I think it was a rabbi whereby when the child would be circumcised, whatever blood was there, the rabbi had to remove that blood with his mouth, and seemingly the children were getting all sorts of diseases, and some of them have died. So yeah, I mean, I totally agree with what you've said. It's a horrendous thing, and I can't see in a civilized world why anybody would need to have that done, any of that mutilation.
I'm not sure how we got to the OPPT and into circumcision, but
Neither am I.
I'd like to kind of take a U-turn and head back if we can, because but we know what you're talking about on that side. But let's just kind of go back a bit, do a little bit of a U-turn, Tammi, and go back to the OPPT, because this is what we're kind of interested in to a certain extent. Steve has a couple of questions for you, don't you?
Well, I do have a question. When we start talking about the OPPT, I do have a question in relation to that. But just what Tammi was saying there about the parking tickets and how to go down that road and your fee schedule and all. Well, one of our posters, Kelt is a long time member of our forum, a long time listener as well, and he said, "Look, guys, this is all theoretical legal stuff and is right." So he's saying it is right, but that is not how the legal system works in reality. The judges run the legal system, and obviously whatever you put to the judge depends on their integrity. But he said he's saying that you are right in what you're saying, but it could depend on the judge on the day. He may decide to not agree with what you were saying.
Well, this what I've said before, Tammi. This might be right for the legal system and the way it should work, but in Ireland it's a different ball game. You just kind of whatever, and then they'll go ahead and they'll fine you or they'll lock you up. Well,
and that's the thing that people need to realize immediately is that everybody's taught that there's judicial immunity. Okay, there's something that protects a judge. Yes, there is a judge. A judge can only see evidence and rule accordingly. What's happened under UCC, Uniform Commercial Code, is they've created a new, quote, judge, which is a trier of fact. A trier of fact is an attorney in a black dress. They are not a judge. That is not a court. It's a convention center. So you can indict the judge, quote, judge, because it's practicing law. Under judicial canon, a judge cannot practice law, period. That's what binds a judge. So if you have a dog is a dog. A horse is a horse. A house is a house. A car is a car. A judge is also a judge. A judge can only be a judge if it sees evidence and rules accordingly. If it represents a bank, or if it represents a state, or if it represents something, it is an attorney. It doesn't have judicial immunity. You need to indict that thing. It's not a judge. It's an attorney in a black dress. Indict it for practicing law. Its law, its foundation, comes from judicial canon, and it says, "Thou shalt not practice law." If you're a judge, you don't practice law. You only have judicial immunity if you're a judge. If you're an attorney, you don't have anything. You have nothing. And you will be held accountable. And last night we were doing that interview with the federal judge here, Judge Naidu, and he admitted to human trafficking.
Wow.
He admitted to human trafficking because this is what this is. They're selling judgments. And when a judge is up on a bench, which is a bank, they're the banker. A judge is a bank. That is the bank.
That's right. Well, it's all about money anyway, isn't it?
Right. It's human trafficking.
Yeah.
When you get a speeding ticket, that's human trafficking. You have not harmed anybody. You have not harmed yourself. You're being transferred and made into a negotiable instrument. The court process is called negotiarum gestio. An attorney, under the law, is called negotiarum gestor. All it does is it gesticulates you between the judge and whatever monetary value they want. You are a negotiable instrument since the Negotiable Instrument Act. When you go in front of a court and you appear before the judge, that court, the bench, is bank. That means bank in French. You are actually depositing yourself in front of the bank.
Yeah.
As a special deposit. So at that time, a special deposit the only rule is it has to be returned the same condition it was when it appeared before the bank. So when you go into the bank and you appear before the court, you walk out of court as the same that you were. But in between, they've already created you into a negotiable instrument, a security, surety. You are always a surety. Only a natural person can be a surety.
Okay, let's look at the evidence. Let's look at the proof. You said that you do this. Do you have people, because obviously this is a question that has been raised actually on the chat forums, have you had success with this? Is there actually people that have either done a schedule and got paid, or have applied this process and just got, didn't go any further? The court just left them alone?
Well, once they do the fee schedule, the ordinance of the states, the E4 letters, the bank letters, all of this, notifying them that we know that this is a business structure, this is a corporate structure, here's our fee schedule. Once we do that, they no longer attack us because they don't want to contract with us.
Right, okay. And how successful have you been with this? How many people have done this and it's worked for them?
A lot. I mean, nobody's been arrested since they've given their fee schedule under somebody else. Phil, for example, Kurt Kallenbach came in and quit-claimed him. So if you quit-claim yourself, you're lost at sea again. Don't do that, because after Kurt Kallenbach quit-claimed Phil was arrested another couple times, and Adam was arrested a couple times, but that was due to a quit-claim that occurred in between. But other than that, they lay off of us. They do not want to contract with us.
Right, okay. I don't know how that would apply over here, really, because, people have tried going down that route. Even when you go into court, one of the things that has been said, and again, we just kind of playing devil's advocate, Tammy, is when you go into court, the first thing, if you're actually, if you go into court, if you're brought there, let's just say you're brought there, is to say to the judge, the first thing is to, one, object when they call your name, and ask them, is it a civil or criminal matter?
Well, wait, no, you don't. Okay, if you object to anything, you're submitting to the authority of the court. If you go into court and you say, well, you got the wrong person, you're submitting to the authority of the court. What you do is you stand outside of court and do the equitable estoppel, and it tells the court, look, somebody brought me into court based on false language and conduct. This is telling them, this law enforcement agency doesn't have any authority to arrest me because I haven't done anything wrong. They brought me into court on false language and conduct.
Who would you give that to, the court?
You mail it into the court, or you take it into the court clerk, but you never enter into as a deposit in front of the court judge. Okay, so you get stopped for speeding, right? And obviously you take the paperwork from the police, from the police officer, because at the end of the day they don't know the system. They're just doing what they're told to do. Right. So you take the paperwork, and then you take the ticket that you just got, and you do an admission statement, and you admit the ticket on as evidence. And you say, look, this guy just tried to kidnap me. He's a privateer. We're not going to have any of this because it's false language and conduct. This court does not have any jurisdiction because this is vexatious litigation. Somebody just brought me into court based on a lie.
Well, no, you mean, so they didn't physically bring you into court, but they want you to go, because at the moment the ticket that they give you is only a notice, and they're asking for money. They're not saying you have to go to court. What they're saying is they're just demanding money, and it's a notice.
Right. So you take them in on the equitable estoppel and you say, look, somebody's harassing me. They just gave me a ticket. This is piracy. They're threatening to take me hostage if I don't pay my bail. Bail stems from ballism. That is the action of piracy. These are pirates. Okay.
And that's interesting because, one of the systems that people have used over here is, again, the return to sender. Is to say that they're obviously, when they send you out, say you get a speeding ticket and they send you out the notice, they want to contract with you. So what you do is, the whole idea here is just, you return the sender, you don't know who they are, you don't have a contract with them, you've no international treaty with them, and you send it back to them. And basically it's an offer of contract, and you're just saying, no, I don't want to actually contract with you.
Right. But you need to follow through. Instead of sending it back to them, take it into the court, into the clerk, and you put that on evidence. That ticket that you got, it's a threat. It's criminal coercion, and it's action of piracy. So you put that on evidence. Put it on evidence. That's the crime that they just committed. You put that on evidence in court process, and then you file the equitable estoppel, and you say, look, this is their false language and false conduct. This is fraud upon the court. Somebody just tried to steal me unlawfully.
And would they not be saying,
what your statute says?
Okay,
the statute is not law. It's a corporate policy.
Right. Okay. Because this is the difference between the legal and lawful. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And obviously the common law versus statute law, legalese. And this is what we're myself and Steve have been kind of getting our head around this as much as we can to understand it. But I do.
I've just in the Skype box there, Tammy. I've just dropped you in a link to the sticker, and the explanation of it is what we use. Say, for argument's sake, I'm currently using that and have been using it. I've used it several times in relation to a TV license. In order to, there's some stupid act over here that if you have a TV, a television receiver, you must have a license, and it's just a way of generating revenue for the state broadcaster. But whenever they try to contract and get us to, they send out a notice in relation to the license. We just apply one of those stickers that you'll see in the link. And we just return it to sender, and it's just basically saying that we're not going to contract with them. We generally don't. That kind of thing would never really end up in court at the initial first couple of letters or notices that you get in. So I mean, would that be enough in the short term?
Right, and I would take it to court. See, if I get a letter that threatens me that they're going to kidnap me or hold me hostage in any way unless I pay a fine, which is the action of piracy, then I'm going to react and indict them because a pirate just tried to steal me.
So you don't wait.
Back. You don't hide from them. I mean, even if, like an ostrich, if an ostrich sticks his head in the sand, his butt is still up in the air.
Well, you know,
it doesn't stop anybody from attacking you. It just hides your head in the sand so you can't see who's attacking you.
Can I just confirm something? White Rabbit, the Spaniard, White Rabbit.
Yeah.
I was listening to White Rabbit speaking to Dr. Rock today on a show. It was a very good show, but White Rabbit said the same thing. He said, if you're defending yourself, that means that they're attacking you. He said, what you have to do is you have to fight back. So as Tammy said, is if they're trying to get you, he said, you just attack them. Go to them.
You have to indict them.
Yeah.
Hold them accountable. They're stealing you unlawfully. This is the action of piracy, and I don't agree with that. Somebody just sent me a letter. It put me into another state. Do you realize that your state of being, like, you're walking around all happy in a state of being of happy, right?
Yeah.
When you get a threatening letter in the mail, you've been moved out of your state of being. They've already kidnapped you. That's interstate kidnapping.
Well, one of the people on the chat facilities there, just their comment on the chat said, she's wrong. If you do as she says, you are showing recognition.
Absolutely not. And equitable estoppel says this court never had any jurisdiction because somebody's trying to bring me in based on false language and conduct. I am not consenting to their jurisdiction.
Yeah, no, dude, I will kind of confirm this because I was speaking to a guy he's not a solicitor, but he's like a Mackenzie friend, and I was telling him about, people coming to third-party interlopers coming, maybe if they want to take your car or something. And he said, do a notice of estoppel and give it to them. And have it ready and date it and say, if you take my car or take my van or whatever, you are liable. I'm holding you liable, and you give them a notice of estoppel. That makes sense?
Absolutely. That's what an equitable estoppel is. Equitable estoppel says somebody's brought me into a situation based on false language or conduct, and you don't have any jurisdiction because there's no cause. There is no cause. There has to be cause in order for them to have a court case.
And do you have we'll talk about links later. And websites and stuff, because this is very good information for people, and I think knowledge gives people the power and also takes the stress away, knowing that if somebody's hassling you, don't be afraid to take them on and say, how dare you look for money or you want to do this. The trouble is that we have a newspaper over here called the Irish Times, and there's a chap, I don't know who wrote it, obviously a guy who wasn't very educated in the law. And they were saying, oh yes, all these people going around saying that, you don't have to obey the law and you can do what you like, blah, blah, the typical stuff you get from these people. And I just can't understand why, obviously these, people, the barristers and the solicitors who go to college and learn about law, they're obviously not educated in this opposite side to the law. Or maybe they are, but they just want to ignore it because they know, whether you win a case or lose a case, it's a gravy train for them, and they make loads of money.
Right, no matter what, and they are the ringers. Now, an attorney, it thinks it's not an actual human being. Attorneys are, most of the time, they're psychopathic, and it is a thing. They don't know the self, and they act as an accountant. The negociarum gestor is only an accountant. It views human beings as objects. So it can count you and it determines your value. But it doesn't view you as a human being. It thinks like a psychopath.
Okay, so talking about the OPPT, what's the situation? Now, when I heard Heather talking about, she was talking about the OPPT, and then she happened to drop in the conversation, oh yeah, and we had a meeting with the Rockefellers, and as soon as I heard that, I thought, right, that's me. That's blown up for me. The fact that she's actually going to have a talk with these people, for obvious reasons. But again, I have seen no evidence of people saying, I've done the OPPT, I've done the courtesy notice, sent it in, and this is the result, and I'm a happy camper. I haven't seen anybody on Facebook or social media or contacting us saying, yes, I've done this. So why is everybody jumping on board this OPPT when there seems to be a lack of evidence that it works?
Well, she's selling them the law merchant again, and that's what happened originally. Congress came in and they offered this great schematic, and people just went with it. Now, the law merchant, first, before the law merchant can exist, it has to steal something from you. And so all of these actions of Congress, they're actually stealing something from you in the action of piracy. So it works on ism play, ISM. Okay, so what happens is, if the market conditions are that the male holds the majority of the wealth, Congress is going to implicate feminism against you. And what this does is it steals your rights as a male so that you get to buy them back from the law merchant through court process. So you and I, you're a male, I'm a female. If you and I were married and we had 3 kids, we go into court. Feminism dictates that I have presumed full custody of the children. This already steals your rights as a father so that you can buy them back by court process. This is what piracy is. Now, if the market conditions were that females hold the majority of the wealth, you'll see masculinism implicated. If Zion holds the majority of the wealth, you see Islamism. If Islam holds the majority of the wealth, you see Zionism. If Christianity, if Christian folks have the majority of the wealth, you're going to see implicated Judaism. If you see the Jews have the majority of the wealth, you're going to see implicated Christianity or Catholicism. Okay? These are all political tools to redistribute you and your assets by taking away your rights, first off, through legal action, so that they can sell them back to you through legal process.
God, that's nice of them, isn't it? We have a few questions for you, Tammy. Over to Steve.
Well, I've got one so far.
Okay.
But it's a good one. Again, it's from Kelt, and he wants Tammy. He's wondering, can you give us some clarification about Nesara, Nesara? He said you'll know what that means.
Well, no, I don't. No, I don't. See, I don't follow any opinions. I try to stick with facts. You know, I'm a metaphysicist, so I don't like. You know, I really don't follow opinions or theories that people pull out of their rectum. You know, I don't have time for that. So
yeah, no worries. There's I'm not too sure whether there's a lady or a gent on the chat facility on Sovereign of the Land Neon Machine, and she has a question, but she said, "Can you ask the question from above?" I think she said that. I think the question is just to kind of confirm that if you don't do anything, they'll keep coming at you. So you have to do something.
Absolutely, and people need to be aware of how they come after you. Now, the legal process, everybody sees right now. We're seeing so many foreclosures and all this, so it's in the front of everybody's mind. But they're coming at you 3 ways. The law works in meta, which is morality, soma, which is psychology, and of course beta, which is law. Okay, so what they're doing is they're generating revenue all the way around you, using the medical industry, psychological industry, and the criminal industry. So even if you are in the fight for your house, you're also over here on this side getting cancer, or you're experiencing depression or some form of mental health issue, or you're being criminalized by false allegations. So you need to be aware, first of all, how they can wrap around you in all three ways: meta, soma, veta. And especially with the male, you are attacked most often by morality. You're always vilified using feminism. You can be falsely accused quite easily because the female's a use. She can go in and assign you, which is a bank assignment. Like if a female goes in and she applies for welfare benefits, social welfare benefits, what she's doing is she is assigning that debt onto your shoulders. By assignment, you're responsible for that. Because you have that attachment, they allow these adhesion contracts between you and the state, and she's the one that gets to sign off on everything that you're doing. And so we need to stop doing that. All of the females out there, stop doing that, because the Vi can't take it anymore. We require our males. Our males have been slaughtered. Our males are used in perpetual servitude because the female under feminism, she's specialized. And so she has all these rights superior to yours, or she thinks she does. She's actually chattel because she's subscribing to the system. But all of that debt is going onto your back and your shoulders. Then you're taught that you're bad. So constantly you're just in a perpetual state of servitude.
It's incredible how they put all this together in such a spider's web. No wonder people don't understand it. And obviously, if you go in and do the wrong thing, they probably get you anyway. So you really want to know what you're doing before you do it.
Absolutely. And the bottom line, number one, you need to start with the self. You need to get to know the self. If you call yourself an individual or a citizen or anything like this, or you live in a republic or whatever else, you're subscribing to that authority. Stop claiming to be those things. It's all in the title. If you look at where the word name stems from, it stems from the word nam, and it's the original distress. This is how they take you. They steal you by the name. You're claiming all these titles. I'm a good mom. I'm a good dad. Well, you're already a parent. They're telling you that you're a bad dad or a bad mom, but when you strive to seek that title, you're actually playing into the system. You're generating revenue by seeking that title. Just let go of these titles. You already are. Don't earn the right to be. This is what they're doing. They're making you, grabbing you at potential. The male mindset, you're more left brain. So starting with energy, they grab you at potential or potential energy, then tell you what to be. And so that allows them to own that energy for the lifetime of the energy.
Okay, well listen, I'm going to just change a little bit, because here's a topic which is very hot in Ireland at the moment, and with your experience and your background, you might be able to help us with this as well. At the moment, our government, we bailed out the bondholders over here. I'm sure you're aware of that in Ireland. And basically, it wasn't sovereign debt, it was bank debt, but the government went ahead and made the people of Ireland pay the actual bank debt. And now we are suffering from mass austerity. People are losing their houses and everything else. At the moment, the government want to charge everybody a property charge, a property tax. Okay? Now, as far as we're concerned, you cannot force somebody to declare. You cannot force somebody to make a declaration, which is what the government are trying to do. So what they started off with was, first of all, there was a property charge where they wanted you to register. And a lot of people didn't register for that. Now the property tax has come out. And again, they've sent out forms to people to sign, making them liable for obviously the charge, the tax. Now a lot of people in the country, probably about half, if not a little less, have decided that, you know what, we're not going to pay it. So, as far as we're concerned, me and Steve have talked about it.
It's not that they decided they weren't going to pay it, but they also decided that they weren't going to fill in this form, which was you were making a declaration, and once you signed the declaration, you were then taking on the responsibility, saying that you agreed that you were liable for this charge. Sorry, go ahead.
First of all, we need to start out with what is a bank. A bank is a bunch of attorneys. When you get a letter from a bank that says such and such attorney is representing the bank never contacted an attorney. The bank is a fiction. So what you're doing is an attorney comes to you, they want money, they're saying they're the bank. This is J.P. Morgan. You know about J.P. Morgan. Well, originally J.P. Morgan was a law firm.
Sorry, Tammy, this isn't the bank. This has nothing got to do with the bank. This is the government.
Right, but this is where it stems from. The bank is the government. Congress is a bunch of attorneys. Attorneys are the banks. So when you're contacted by an attorney, they're pretending that a bank contacted them and the bank wants its money back. Right?
Mm.
This is an attorney raising you. There's no such thing as that bank. That bank is just an illusion that you see because you can see a building, but the bank is actually your government. The bank is a bunch of attorneys, and they're raising society. When originally, Ireland was taken over by the Bull Pope, as you know, okay? So England came in and raised, and what happened was when England came in, they asked the sheeple at that time, they said that the church wants to donate a whole bunch of property over here. Well, the people said okay because they were charitable, right?
Yeah.
The church never owned that property. They consented to the church owning that property because the church said, hey, let's donate this, and the people said okay. They did the same thing here. That's the government. It's always been under ecclesiastical law. There is no separation of church and state. Somebody came in and just screwed you over. In 1802 here, what they did here in the United States was even more surprising. So in 1802, with the Acts of Enablement and everything else, they came in and they said, hey, we're the church, and we're going to donate 200,000 acres per college and give this land to the college just for you. And the people stood up and they're like, yay, yay, we'll have some free schooling. And they said, okay, let's donate that. Before that moment in time, nobody owned anything. They didn't own it. You consented to them taking your land at that moment in time.
Mm.
That was your land. You're the heir.
Yeah.
They don't own anything.
So,
They're pretending to own something by action of law. So you in your mind, this is all in the imagination. This is implied color and color. And so in the imagination, you're still seeing, these guys in white powdered wigs and everything else. That never existed. They never owned anything. You gave it to them by your consent because you're charitable.
That's right. Now, this property charge or property tax, so a lot of people, what they did was just return the sender and send it back to them.
Well, don't forget the SPV as well.
What?
Like the people who did send back the return to sender, they joined up with the SPV.
Oh, yeah.
That are bringing it to court.
Basically, Tammy, does a attack the tax group who are taking on the government, and what they've done is they've set up a PLC company, and then everybody becomes a shareholder of this company for €2. So if you're a shareholder, then you have an interest in the court case which they're bringing against the Irish government. So the general idea is that if you get paperwork in saying to pay the property tax, you say that we're in the middle of a court case at the moment and we can't do anything until the case is actually being brought to court.
Right, and you need to indict all of them. The Internal Revenue Service is an agency by estoppel created by action of law. The banks are an agency estoppel created by action of law. And the number one source of all that criminalization is Congress. So you need to hold Congress accountable, the bank accountable, IRS accountable, everybody coming after you accountable, and indict them for human trafficking. They never owned anything. And when you go after them, that compels them to prove their title. How are they going to do that?
Well, I've got a question there, and it's something that you just said. One of the things that Steve has been looking into is a letter to his boss or to the company that you work with to say, I do not give you the authorization to take money out of my bank account or my salary to pay this property charge. So would you think that a notice of estoppel should be given to the bank and given to his employer to say,
yes,
do not do this, because this is a notice of estoppel, and if you do, you'll be going against the law. You'd be breaking the law.
And you also want to send that same thing to your congressional legislation. You want to send that thing to the local law enforcement. You want to send that thing to the court. You want to send that to any form of administration to let them know, if you want to contract with me, here's my fee schedule. Other than this is an unlawful act, and I'm going to indict you, and then you'll experience my fee schedule. But you have to allow free will. And that's what a lot of people are not looking at. So they get stopped for a speeding ticket, and they'll hand them whatever, I don't consent, whatever. Well, that doesn't really have any function or effect. But if you notify them ahead of time and you say, here's my fee schedule, this is the law that you're breaking, you have no authority whatsoever, and this is how you can contract with me. If they enter into that contract with free will, that's a contract. That's under contract law. It's fully viable. It's allowed. You've offered them free will, and they decided that they'd like to kidnap you and pay those fines.
But people have done this over here. I mean, if you look at that guy Dave in the UK, who sent all the relevant paperwork away, and apparently in the eyes of the law, if you send away and it's not redacted, you know, basically that means that's the law. So technically, this is what this Dave did. I'll just look based on the videos I've seen on YouTube. He did all this. He sent all the relevant paperwork away, and nobody came back and said, we disagree. But he was pulled up by the police. His car was taken off him, and it was put in a lockup, and they said, you're going to need to have your license, your insurance, and this. He never got his car back. He had a fee schedule and everything else, did all this.
Follow through?
Well,
because what happens is they cannot answer. When you do a motion to show cause and show their criminalization. Now, what we've done is we went back on the October 15th, 1777 Articles of Confederation that Congress entered into with themselves, and we've indicted Congress based on that contract. That contract entered all human beings into servitude. It allows them to be prostitutes. So we went after them for promoting prostitution, for servitude, for all of this. Well, when they didn't come back and they couldn't argue or overrule, we had to lay down a default. Well, then you have to lay down the remand, and you have to follow through completely. You don't stop. Now, when you indict them, they can't hear the case because they're party to the case. They're under indictment. That means that they've abjured the realm of the court. That court is empty. You need to take that seat on the bench. You're the judge. This is how politics works. That's how they got the position on the bench, because you agreed to it. Now you're getting the position on the bench because you actually have title to the land. The estate is referring to you. You own that title based on the law of possession. Possession is 9/10 of the law, correct?
That's right. That's what they say.
Who's inside of your body right now? Who's inside of your body?
I don't know.
What possesses your body?
The devil.
You do.
Yeah.
You do. They don't have a legal right to that body.
Imagine saying all this if you got stopped by the police. He'd just say, go on. I'm not going to even bother.
You need to give them what we did was we legislated law. We call it the ordinance of the states. We send it out to all law enforcement, and we say, look, you never argued this legislation. Nobody could overrule this legislation because it's law. There's no overruling authority. And then you say, here's my contract. But in between, you're noticing them that the estate includes you, this child, this child, this child, and you can have other people in your house. You need to establish your house. What you're doing right now is you're living in the House of Representatives. By submitting to them, you're saying you're a citizen of their house. So you're allowing them by default and not dissenting to own that estate. They're only holding it because you haven't held them accountable yet.
Okay, and just talking about houses and estates, where does it come in with the likes of SPVs and banks and mortgages and fractional banking? We know that banks have never, they don't have any money really, and they give out fractional money, and then they sell on your property. When you sign your sign of nature, when you sign that, then that's a promissory note, and they sell that on under an SPV.
Right, and you need to go back and you need to obliterate that document. First of all, mortgage means dead pledge. So that's how they send you summons. You can only summon the dead. If you answer a summon, you're admitting that you're dead. Okay, first of all, that's how they get you. Under the law of infants, you're not dead, you're not alive, you need to be taken care of. That's what the Declaration of Independence was here in the United States. It declared you in a pending state. Pending. You're not dead, you're not alive, so you require being taken care of under the law of infants. Once you assume your authority, you're no longer an infant. You know exactly who you are. The ecclesiastical law is founded on the fact that you don't know who you are. They've taught you're all sorts of stuff. Male, female, man, woman, mother, father, doctor, teacher, whatever. All these titles that means you're a split personality. You have a whole bunch of characters inside of you, and you're always assuming another title. You don't know who you are. You're God. Somebody taught you that you are not God.
Yeah.
The only way that you can control God is to teach him that he's something else, right?
Yeah.
So all this time you've been striving to be something else, and that's how they get you. You need to notify them. I'm back. I'm not consenting to this. Show me that you have any allodial right to the body, and then I'll be fine with you. But other than that, if you'd like to contract with me, it's going to cost you $33 billion.
Wow.
And you need to hold to that line. You can't subject and say, oh, I want my constitutional rights. A constitution is something that you consist of. If you have a glass of milk half full of milk, that glass consists, its constitution is milk. Now, if you are filled up with a constitution, you're what? An individual? A citizen? But this is displacing your soul. Your soul is not just the physical soul. It's a metaphoric example of where you've gone. You're separated from yourself.
Well, the one thing that happens over here, and obviously it's happened in the States, is that there is an awful lot of evictions going on. And what happens is, even under our Constitution, where people, these people turn up, the sheriff turns up to evict people. And technically, based on what you're saying, is they don't have any rights to do that whatsoever. Who are they? But but the trouble is that they just ignore everything we say a lot of the time.
You're going under constitutional theory. If you subscribe and you say, I want my rights, you're entering into the doctrine of election. You're electing them as your government. You can't go in there and ask for your rights. You have to go in there and ask them, what right do you have? You show me that you have a allodial title. You never go in there and claim constitutional theory. You never go in there and claim statute. In 1832, Andrew Jackson, the President of the United States at that time, said it was unlawful for you to argue statute and legislation. You're going to be held in contempt. So they nailed you again during the court process, and they're holding you in contempt for not admitting evidence onto the court record. Since 1938, the attorney work product doctrine stemming from stare decisis, case law common law, which is communism, has taken all the evidence off a court record. So you're always in an administrative court. Always in an administrative court. That thing is a convention center because it's only filled up with attorneys.
Well,
you need to go all the way back. Stop claiming constitutional theory. Stop claiming statute and indict them. They're the ones. Make them the ones that are adhering to statute. So when you start indicting them, first of all, what happens? You send out a summons, right?
Well, when you say indict, are you talking about suing them?
You have to indict them by the evidence. These court cases, when you have any kind of court case, especially a probate case or a family law case, those are illegal on their faces. So you take the court record that a judge has never, ever seen. A judge has never seen anything in your court record because none of it is evidence. There's exhibits on there. Exhibit means it's an example. There's testimony on there. There's whatever's on there, but there's no evidence. Evidence can only be admitted using an admission statement. There's no evidence. So you don't have a judge there. A judge can only view evidence and rule accordingly. If there's exhibits and examples and all this crap on there, you're asking an attorney to determine your fate. You have to compel a judge to be there. And then if there's no judge, then you indict the attorney in the black dress. The court is not functioning at this time. It is always criminal contempt of court because they're maintaining it under administrative capacity. They're not maintaining courts under judicial canon. A judge has to be bound by judicial canon. If there's no judge there, you're up in the air. You have to stop consenting to these things.
I'd love you to come over here and then give this system a go and maybe shake it up. We have Tony, I believe, that's just come on. Tony Z. Tony, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, Alan.
Oh, there you are. You managed to get the PC up and running then, yeah?
Absolutely. I've had loads and loads of grief with it recently, and, it's just sod's law, just when you're trying to get on it, I've been on it all day today, not an issue, but the second I tried to connect, bang, there you go. Yeah,
I know the feeling. Well, we have about a good 20 minutes or so, 25 minutes left. So we're just, again, talking to Tammi about bits and pieces, Tony, as you I don't know whether you've been listening in there. Very, very interesting information. I'd love Tammi to come over here and apply all that over here with the courts, because I think you'll be shocked, Tammy, to see what actually goes on. Because I think in a number of cases, from what we've heard anyway, a lot of stuff is just ignored. They just don't want, they just, you might go in and go,
but it's not, and that's where you need to find your authority. When they ignore something, they are not able to do anything with it because it can't be overruled. At that time, they've adjourned the realm. The judge left, everybody took off out of the courthouse, and you need to take that position. You are the judge. If you go back to 1 Corinthians 6, Jesus tells you you are the judge. You can only fornicate by giving your body to something else. You can only fornicate by giving your body to a landlord. That means you're subjecting yourself to their law. That's your landlord, and they own you. That's what fornication means. You can only fornicate by giving your body over to that landlord. Stop doing that. You're the authority. When you go to court and you're arguing these things, standing outside of the court, and they can't do anything with it, or it looks like they're ignoring it, they're not able to touch it because they can't argue the truth. You need to step in there and be the judge. You need to lay down the default judgment. Then you need to lay down the remand. And who you're dealing with in actuality is the clerk. You're not dealing with the judge because there's not a judge there.
But obviously what you're saying is don't even go into court. Just do the paperwork and put it in, and that will, chances are, it'll just go away.
Absolutely. And I sent you all of the links to my audios. There's like 19 hours of audios for the original contracts, where it stems from, how to get out of this, what you need to do, how to establish your house. All of that is in those audios, and then my paperwork is in there as well, in those Dropbox links that I sent through to you. And everything's lined out, and then we also have classes, and this is what our show's about. We have our show, you had mentioned that it's okay for me to advertise it. It's called Leaving the Farm, PFARM. And we're located on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com every Saturday night, 6 to 8 p.m. And we talk about this all the time. This is what we teach. This is what we do. And I'm not just using, what gets me with Heather Tucci, she's using guinea pigs for her little project there. She's establishing the same thing that Congress established years ago. She's allowing perpetual servitude by maintaining that you should claim yourself as a natural person. A natural person is only a surety. You are the surety bond. That is what attorneys are purchasing. You are the surety. You back that thing. So when your government went into failure and they sold these bonds or whatever, they sold you. You need to indict them for human trafficking. And that's what we're doing here. You have to indict them for human trafficking.
Okay.
But all of everything is located in those links. And again, we have classes all the time on Skype if anybody would like to join us.
I think we'd have to put a donate button for an air travel ticket for Tammy to come over here for a week or two and start educating a few people. That would be a good thing. Would you like a trip to Ireland, Tammy?
Oh, that would be interesting.
Yeah, bring warm clothes and an umbrella.
Even though we have the summer, we haven't seen it yet. Steve, you've got a couple of questions there.
Yeah, a couple of questions, Tammy, have come in, and they're kind of jumping back a little bit. But one came in from, I think it was Shrewd Operator. He said he's considering trademarking his name. So, I'll actually just read it. It'll sound better if I just read it directly as it is. I'm considering trademarking the name so that I can use a fee schedule for the use of the name when debt collectors, local authorities, etc. write to me. Please ask Tammy what her view of trademarking the name is. I'm referring to a common law trademark.
Right. And we don't do that already. The foundations of all of this is that you're lost. You're lost at sea stemming from the Cesar-K-Vi Act. You are being picked up as trover or found according to the letter's patent. Okay?
Yeah.
So the birth certificate and everything and the birth record, that belongs to the World Intellectual Property Organization. You are intellectual property because they tell your parents that you were conceived. Conceived means with thought. Okay? So an attorney said he thinks of you, so they have the patent on it. That's basically what's going on. You need to go into court, and you have to make them prove their title. You go after them, make them come back and say, hey, look, I got title to you this way, because they don't have that. They don't have the ability. They'll never be able to show that they have allodial title over you, and you must not ever consent. And then you own the name. You own the name after the process, but you have to go through the whole entire process and stand on it. Hi, it's me. Show me that you own my title. Stop posting me. You're not going to post me in the mail. Stop doing this. This is the contract where you entered into contract with yourself to human traffic me that's unlawful. We have the bill of particulars against Congress. Congress never argued that. When we served Senate the summons, they tore open the package and kicked the crap out of it, and then they sent it back. And it had tape on it. This is open for inspection, but they sent it back refused as if they didn't receive the summons. But however, they received the summons. We have evidence that they opened for inspection the package, but they were hiding from us because they don't want to be indicted. These are their laws. Their laws, Congress and Senate, their laws are human trafficking laws. They're not laws. It's a means and mechanism of human trafficking. And so they never argued the bill of particulars. They didn't argue their indictment. And they are under indictment. And what happened was they lost their funding March 8th because of our actions on March 5th. The United States Incorporated is no longer a member in the International Monetary Fund. The only way that they're going to get funding again is if they adhere to the public law, which means do no harm. There cannot be human trafficking, period.
Oh, okay, I want to bring Tony in a minute, but what's the situation now with the financial system and the way things are at the moment? Are you aware of what's going on in Europe and the banks and everything else? Are we, obviously it's finite the way the system is at the moment. And
right.
They're just printing money for the sake of printing money, I think. Well, not for the sake of it, but obviously they don't have the money, so.
Right, but that all stopped, and it stopped in March. However, at the fiscal year here in June, they realized they don't have any funding. The United States Incorporated is your government. That was, by action of Congress, what was created. You are part of the United States Incorporated. Congress got global governance in 1941 with the Atlantic Charter. And what happened is they've been implicating the law or our law or whatever you want to say. I don't subscribe to them as a citizen or anything, but they're implementing that law. I just indicted them. They did not argue the bill of particulars, and we've cut the United States Incorporated out of the International Monetary Fund, meaning they don't have funding to do this, but they don't realize until June at the start of the fiscal year when they revamp their opportunities. This is when they project their productivity and they ask for the funding for the next year. They realize right now in June that they don't have funding for next year. The only way that they can get that back is to adhere to the public law. And that means they cannot harm a human being, and they have to put, what we did was we indemnified them and put them back into their bankruptcy, right? So what they've done with us through human trafficking is that stock option, which is us at our birth certificates, they're displacing their bankrupt status and telling us we're bankrupt and holding us for their debt, offsetting their debt by using us, by court process, medicine, whatever else. And so we turned this around. We did the remand, which puts the United States Incorporated all into the holding corporation and takes the human being out.
Okay, and what's the benefit for us?
Everything. You are the United States of being as well.
Excellent. Right, I want to bring Tony in because obviously Tony came in a bit late there. Tony, I don't know how much you've been listening, but what's your take on this and what's happening over in the UK with people applying these kind of processes?
Right, okay, my take is I'm in line with Tammi, basically, but it goes a lot deeper than on the surface. In other words, what's happened, as we said before, everything has been constructed so that we're actually in fraud. It's incredible how they've done it, because what they start with is registering the name, and once you register the name, all of the identification comes after that name. So you're enticed into a fraudulent system from the start. And this is what Kate's referred to on many occasions. It's all about the fraud. Everything is in the mirror. But that, and it goes a heck of a lot deeper than that. The same MO, or the same model, is applied in every other system, which is what Tammi was talking about earlier. It's implied everywhere. The financial system, the monetary system, the monetary system, political system, it's everywhere. And it's only till you can see how it actually works that you start applying it to all the other areas, and it's incredible. As for has anybody applied Tammi's system in the UK, I couldn't really comment on that because I've been, busy chasing other areas of the system, other areas of, how they're doing, what they're doing, how they got away with it, how they implemented it, who are they that's implementing it, where does it go, how deep does it go, and where else can we look at? Because this is a massive, massive situation. Everybody from Dean Clifford to, Tammi is attacking different areas. And what's actually happened is exactly what they knew was going to happen. Sooner or later, the people are going to realise they've been screwed. They've been absolutely shafted from start to finish. And that's
by Congress.
Yeah, by all of them. It's not just Congress. Congress is just a member of the Crown.
And that's the head of everything. First of all, you have the Broadcasting Board of Governors. Insurance is right before that, below the Broadcasting Board of Governors. And below the insurance is the court process. So you're only dealing with the Broadcasting Board of Governors, which stems from Congress. John Kerry sits at the Broadcasting Board of Governors as the Secretary of State. He's their clerk. And so you have to indict Congress. Your government or anybody else's government around the globe is only a figurehead because Congress got global governance with the Atlantic Charter in 1941. They are the New World Order. You need to hold Congress accountable. Look past your own governments. They're only there for the presentation value.
Well,
they're a figurehead or a mouthpiece.
It wouldn't surprise me, because Ireland has, the debt that Ireland has is probably quite small, obviously it is compared to the UK and compared to America, and it wouldn't surprise me if the US or the UK, probably the US, bought Irish debt and bought either bonds or they did some kind of deal where Ireland, the debt from Ireland has been taken over, because America is something like $17.6 trillion in debt. That's never going to get paid. Debt to who?
That's congressional debt, and it is going to get paid. What we did in this case was we indicted Congress, and then we followed through as a judge. Nobody could overrule us. We just put down the final judgment, which was the remand, and then after that we did the agreed entry with Northern Holdings and Trust. And what that is now the United States Incorporated are in Northern Holdings and Trust. That's what you have to do. You have to put them. They are the ones that went bankrupt. This is not our debt. This is not our debt ever, ever, ever. By no means is this your debt. You are not to be a debtor.
Well, we know that over here in Ireland, especially with bailing out the bondholders. That there was never any contract signed to say that we had the bailout. Basically the banks gambled, they lost. And the government, on the night of, in 2008, the bank guarantee was done where basically there was an elephant in the room, for want of another word, of a guy, this is allegedly Barry Sutherland, who goes to the Bilderberg meetings and everything else. And I think that the people at the time, Lenihan, who was the finance minister, and Brian Cowan, were coerced and forced to sign that bank guarantee, because Ireland was doing fairly okay up to that point, and the banks were bailed out, and even the current finance minister, allegedly, Michael Noonan, was a bondholder. So, that's a conflict of interest in itself.
And also, it's the Roman Empire. This is the point, guys. It goes back through the Vatican, it goes back through the Church, it goes back through, like I say, all the different laws are just different layers of the cake. It's all Roman Empire system.
And you have to realize that it's all an illusion. When you go in and you purchase a home from a bank, that's where you're saying the bank owned it. It never owned it before that. That's your property. You are a human being. Human beings can inherit the earth, right? This is the kingdom of heaven. It's been shut up by law. And so you're actually consenting to them owning just by purchasing stuff from them. That bank that sold you that home, they never owned it until you went in and consented that they owned it and then purchased it from them. You don't have any debt. You need to get rid of those contracts. They're unlawful contracts. The borrower's covenant in these deeds of trust, That says you're giving your body over for prostitution. You can never enter into an illegal contract to sell your body for prostitution. It's an unenforceable contract.
But people have done this, Tammy, and the banks are just, they ignore it. And
because the judge, that attorney in the black dress is representing the bank. That's what I'm saying. You have to indict that attorney in the black dress because that thing is representing the bank.
Yeah. Well, that's definitely, the judges have the bank's interest at heart over here.
They are
that's
the
for
bank.
sure. Yeah.
That's what bench means.
Well, that's a conflict.
Means bank.
But that's a conflict of interest. So you'll never get a fair judgment because there's a conflict of interest.
That's why you have to do it yourself. See, what you're looking at is we've been taught to subjugate ourselves to the judges because they have some kind of power or authority. Well, power is vested. You vested power in that thing. You have delegated your authority. Now, when you hold a judge under indictment, another judge isn't going to come in and indict them unless you make the risk really high. You are going to have to follow through, and when they adjourn the realm, you need to jump in there as a judge, lay down the judgment, then tell the clerk to remand those matters. Matter is you. It's a subject matter. That's your consistency. That's what matter is. Issues in the law, the word issues means that's your children, your descendants. So when you come before the court with issues, you're giving the court your children. When you're a matter before the court, you're subjugating yourself. Don't do that. Indict them.
I'd love to see this in action. I really would love to see this in action.
U.S. District Court, Northern District of Indiana, 313 CV052. And we've already followed through, and we've established now the clerk is working for us. We've been directing the clerk. She's working for us. We've established the United States Court. We took over that court, United States District Court, and renamed it to United States Court. This is all on record in that court. The clerk has been working for us. We don't serve anybody. We just direct the clerk to serve everybody. We just did the remand and put all of the United States Incorporated back into the holding company where it goes under the laws of bankruptcy, and it's all over. They just don't realize until June at the fiscal year when they go to up their ante here and get their funding, they're not allowed to have their funding because they've been withdrawn voluntarily from the International Monetary Fund by their own actions.
Well, is this why, obviously, you're saying June, and that includes Europe as well. So, obviously, with the fact that there's the war going on, it's there in Syria at the moment. They want to have World War III because they're panicking at the moment.
Absolutely, but we offer them a better business model. What happens is normally they raise an area of land and a community, and they generate revenue based on this. And what most people don't realize, what happened in Bolshevik Russia, was that the Bear Corporation came in as a Republic of Germany and indemnified Poland. That's what sparked the war. It was all corporations. They were losing money. And so now at this point in time, all of the human beings, again, were extrapolated. We don't have any more money. So what happened was I indicted the United States Incorporated, all judges, all attorneys, Congress, Senate, and it's a better business model because they have lots of money. All they have to do is cannibalize each other under public law, which is happening now.
Wow. So is this going to come down, you're saying probably June?
Right now, yes, in June.
Wow.
At the fiscal year, they realize what's happened.
Okay, just over to Tony. Tony, obviously the war in Syria, we've got about 5 minutes left. The war in Syria and what's going on. What's your heads up on that, Tony?
Well, basically, it's the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. It's the same MO, it's the same model. They go in and they arm the people, arm the terrorists to create the distractions, to create the diversion, in order to pull countries in on one side and countries in on the other, right? The same thing. At the top of the governments of all the countries, of all the world, they're lying to you. They've been lying to you all your life, and they're going to carry on lying to you until you start to realise what the hell's going on. Again, it's the same situation. We have free energy, we have anti-gravity and all sorts of other stuff that they're hiding from you. And they're desperate, absolutely desperate to confuse and create wars and create distractions and put, stars in their eyes on TV and all these other things to distract you. And, the truth is here. The truth is what Tammy's talking about. The truth is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
All that crap you're going to see on TV is all distraction. All of it.
Yeah, well, we know that. I mean, that's the whole idea of TV, television, and programs as they're programming you. So I think more and more people are beginning to wake up. Just a quick message off track for Tammy. We got an email in from one of our listeners, and he says, that I love this lady, will she marry me? There you go. So, but that's good. Well, listen, this has been great information. Tammi, I think, and Tony, I think you're going to have to come on again because it's such a vast subject that's to cover. And myself and Steve, well, I'm going to speak for myself anyway. I'm kind of still learning this stuff, and I really need to kind of break it down and see it in chunks. But obviously, it'd be brilliant to see it working. And somebody on the chat facility, Crown Copyright, said, get Guy Taylor on. So we'll try and track Guy Taylor down and get him on and talk to him about it, because obviously he must be doing it. But I know you're doing it over in the States, Tammi. But I think our government over here in Ireland, and I think Steve will probably agree with me, that they need a good kicking. They not physically, but they just need They need to be taken down a peg, because basically they're running riot and they just don't give a damn about the people. And we are suffering, everybody's suffering mass austerity and evictions taking place. And just people being hurt to no fault of their own. It's purely got to do with what the government did. And these parasites in government, and that's what they are, as far as I'm concerned, they're parasites. No empathy, psychopaths in government. They don't care about the people. They're so detached from what the people want and what's going on. And I just think that enough's enough. The system has to come down, and the government has to come down, and we need to replace with something that's of benefit to the people. Whatever that is, I don't know, but it has to be for the people, for the benefit of the people.
Replace it with you. You know your intent. Now, and that's something that's the reason they've usurped your authority. You know your intent. Now, if a cop was coming at me, you would protect me. That's your function. That's why they're trying to remove all the males. You need to stand up. You are the authority. You are God. And when you pull yourself off of that cross, when you pull me off of that cross, we can no longer be crucified. That was all a metaphor. I urge everybody to read the Bible again. The Old Testament is actually their manifest. It tells them how to break the human being for dummies, basically. The Second Testament, or the New Testament, is the walk of you, Jesus. GE_SUIS. That means your earth. You need to protect that earth and stop fornicating with a landlord or a Lord God. The Lord God is somebody owning you, which is Congress, which is that court, which is a judge. Patriotism is calling something else your father. Jesus said, don't call anything else your father. Don't do that. They have taught you to patronize it. Patriotism is patronizing something in exchange for protection. Stockholm Syndrome is patronizing a captor in exchange for protection. What's the difference between this patriotism and that patriotism? In Stockholm Syndrome, you usually know your captor. Yeah.
It is a minefield, and it's something that we need to look into more. But listen, Tammi, thank you for coming on. Steve, you're looking at me a bit.
Sorry, I have a couple of questions.
Sorry, I'm just looking at the time. Go ahead.
Look at the time on you. Like it.
Quick.
Time is man-made, Alan.
Quick
man-made.
fire. Yeah, no such thing as time.
Yeah, no such thing as time. We just transport back in now.
But my computer says there is time, so.
Yeah, well, that's your computer's perception. Well, I'll just throw these at you real quick, Tammi. 2 questions came in earlier. One from Kelt, wondering, have you read Judge Dale's memoirs?
No, not at this time. No, not yet. Okay.
And the second one from Neon Machine says, OYM guys, I hear Tammi talk about the truth behind the welfare state and social security. Can you ask her if she is willing to discuss that subject? Probably not tonight, though.
Absolutely, but it's not a welfare state. And everybody needs to realize that this program, it all involves and stems from the first and second welfare theorem, which is a corporate welfare theory. You are being used to maintain corporations on corporate welfare. When they present to you in the media that all these people are on social welfare and this lady's getting $500 a month cash or whatever else, you need to look at your corporations. When Donald Trump goes bankrupt, one of his corporations goes bankrupt, he lays it across the federal state. That goes on my back. That goes on your back. That is what corporate welfare is. Okay. Social welfare is nothing. It's a drop in the pocket. But they're going to teach you to hate each other and fear each other so that you never hold them accountable for maintaining corporate welfare.
Yeah. Again, it goes on the back of the taxpayer.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Okay, Tammi, well, listen, thanks a lot again for coming on. And Tony, thanks for coming on. I'm going to pass you over to Steve, and Steve's just going to do a round up there, get your details and stuff.
Thank you for having me. Be well.
And you too.
No, it's an absolute pleasure to have both of you on. Tammi, I haven't spoken to you before. Tony, I have had the pleasure of conversing with. But Tammi, can you just, for the latecomers, give us the website again where people can find out more of this great information and obviously expand their mind even further?
Well, you can find us on Skype, T Pepperman. I'm also over on, I have a show every Saturday night, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is 5 hours different from you guys, on Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You can find us there. I'm also on Facebook. Just get a hold of us. And we teach this in the classes. I run classes 24/7. We've got Pat and Bo and Rocco and everybody else. Come on over on Skype and we'll show you all of the documentation. We'll show you all of the audios. We've got, so many people now that are doing this, and it's just been so amazing and overwhelming at the same time. But get with us on Skype. Come into the classes, and you're welcome anytime.
Brilliant.
And Tony's details?
Yeah, Tony, can we have your details, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Like Tammy's been doing, we've been cracking lots and lots of different aspects of the shows, different aspects of information. But if people go to synchronicity.com, synchronicity, there's all sorts of information there on Kate Santos Bonacci, who's been cracking the Bible and cracking astrotheology. Kate's been cracking the legal system on a massive scale as well, and myself connecting the dots, etc. So there's loads of information there, synchronicity.com.
Okay, brilliant. We go to a quick music break, and guys, thanks a lot for coming on, and we'll be back after this.
This is Open Your Mind Radio on OYMIreland.com, CNSradio.ning.com, and ICRadioNetwork.com.
And we're back. Obviously, we're just I'm going to have to change that jingle. Brilliant information there from Tammi Pepperman. Going to get those links up there, and obviously going to check out our shows during the week and log on to those websites and download the information. I think that someone did post up the Dropbox details on the OYM chat earlier, so we can get some of the good information. It's a lot. I'll be honest with you, Alan. It's great stuff. It sounds absolutely fantastic in theory. A lot of it goes over my head.
Oh, it does, and I want to see it in action.
Yeah.
Proof is in the pudding. That's really what it comes down to. Because there's no point saying, talking about indictment and this, that, and the other while you're being put in cuffs and sent down to the prison cell.
Yeah.
That's the trouble over here. That's what happens. They just blatantly ignore you. So I'd like to see it actually working, to be honest with you. Right, very quickly, we've got about 8 minutes left. So just to touch base, don't forget we have a free OYM seminar coming up on the 17th of June, 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock in the Headford Arms, Kells, County Meath. It's all about wireless, the dangers of wireless technology. It's free. If you can come, brilliant. Try and get there early. There are limited seats, really are limited seats. It's not a marketing ploy. There are limited seats. We have the small room, not the big room. So come along, and parking, there'll be plenty of parking in the town, and there shouldn't be any parking fees, because I think it finishes at 6 o'clock. So all it's going to cost you is your petrol and your time. That's all.
And again, after the good information that you've received here this evening, even if you do get a parking ticket, you can deal with that.
That's a good idea.
If you get a parking ticket, take them to court.
Go to a meeting that talks about how to get get rid of your parking ticket when you have a parking ticket coming out. Okay, next week now we're going to have John Irwin. I was talking to John earlier today, actually. John Irwin. John Irwin is a super soldier, and he's in his 70s at the moment. But in the 50s and 60s, I must say more than 50s, he was actually the one. He was recruited internally in the British Army to take down the Illuminati and the New World Order. And he's a mind full of experience and information regarding what's going on. We were talking about Syria earlier today and what the plan of attack is and what you should be prepared for, based on the global elite and what they're planning to do. So, again, good information. Don't forget that if they call you ODD, Oppositional Defiant Disorder, you call them back a neophobe. Neophobia, which is the fear of new things or experiences, okay? So that's what they're called. If they call us ODD, that's what they're called.
Yeah, you could use that neophobe. You could use that in a lot of situations, really, couldn't you?
He could do, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
if it's a fear of new things.
Yeah, or new experiences.
Yeah.
New things.
And I'm not kind of talking in a dirty sense or anything like that. I'm being sincere. You know, I mean, even in work, I mean, some of the people who I often converse with in work, and I'd be giving them, as I say, I plant seeds, you know, of little kind of nuggets of information, and just see what people think of them. It's generally kind of what we discuss here, and what Alan and I will discuss amongst ourselves, like during the week as well. And I just kind of see what kind of a reaction I get, and sometimes you get a good reaction, sometimes you get a glazed look, and sometimes you store in them, you know, a want or a something. But yeah, from now on, if I kind of talking about something and they don't agree, or you know, they're not prepared to accept something new, I'm just going to say, you're only a shower of neophobics.
That's it. That's exactly. John said, does he have any information on super soldiers? If you go to YouTube and type John Irwin, then you'll actually be able to see an interview that John did.
That's and his surname is spelled Urwin, and there are a couple of videos out there, and he is interviewed. It's the Bases series with Miles Johnston. And he has 2 interviews there with John Irwin. Brilliant interviews, actually. Well worth a look.
Again, you know, all the best to Vin doing what he's doing, taking time out with the family. I hope everything goes okay there. Thanks to everyone for tuning in to Scottish Sovereign on the Land. We have their player on OYM at the moment. And thanks for tuning in tonight. It's the first time we did a stream on Scottish Sovereign on the Land. Hopefully there'll be more to come. And we have a few more guests coming up in the next few weeks. If you want to check our schedule, just pop along to the website and have a look at the schedule. We do send out web links every now and again. So if you're a registered user, it's free to register on OYM, then you'll be privy to links that come into us, and we send them out to registered users, or any information that comes in, we will send out. And we also have a shop there too. If you want to support us, send in a donation, or if you want to buy something in the shop.
Few sweeties, like.
Well, we're not doing the sweeties, but we have a couple of things there, and they're donations that were made to us just to help raise funds for OEM. We do appreciate the support from everybody, and we understand that everybody has different opinions on certain things, as we all do. But the whole thing is just that we all agree that something has to be done with the system at the moment. We can't keep doing what we're doing, and what we do is just try and get people on and educate people as best we can. And hopefully not give our opinion, but you make up your own opinion on the information that you hear. Because we've no sponsors, so we don't have to kowtow to anybody at OYM.
And tonight's show was brought to you by
Product X.
Yes.
I should say Planet X. That's another thing. We're going to have to get somebody on to be talking about that, Planet X and Project Wormwood, which is something that's going on in Australia. But it's coming to that time. Now, we would switch over to Vin and TNS and find out what he's doing, but obviously it's a different situation now. Now, I did leave a message on the chat facility earlier on, and I asked who was on after us tonight. We'd give it a little bit of a plug, but we didn't get any information back, so we don't really know who's going to be on after us. If anybody does know, we can quickly say it if you want to type it in the chat facility. But otherwise, it'll be I don't know what show's on next, because we're on a different network.
Different street. Yeah, well, I mean, you know, at the same time, you know, just go over the Scottish Sovereign on the Land and hit the player.
Yeah.
See what comes up. Just we have that player there now. It is actually on OYM. If you look underneath the chat, it's the International Man of Mystery. No, it's not. It's the International Media Streaming.
Yeah.
So
that's the player now. And then if anybody wants to obviously hear for whatever reason, if you can't get to the site, the player's there on the site, you can actually go and hear it there.
Dr. Rock.
Don't forget, Dr. Rock is apparently on next, so we're going to pass it over to Dr. Rock and we're going to drop the stream. Take care of yourself, stay safe, we'll talk to you next week. If there's any information, email us, let us know. For the time being, take care, bye bye. This is Alan James saying good night.
Okay, and I won't delay too long. So I'll say, brilliant show, great information. Looking forward to checking out the links, and hopefully we'll all be above ground, and we'll do it all again next week. So for myself, Stephen George, a very good evening. Take care, and have fun. Bye bye.